Hello and welcome to the Women's Empowerment Summit 2020. Today I have with me Judy Copenbarger. She is profoundly caring professional money guide, counsels and patiently teaches individuals of all ages and families of all types on the facts and agendas of money. A highly trustable voice for those rapidly changing times, answering with wisdom the question, what is your best interest? Judy puts it all in writing in her eye-opening book, Money, Truth, and Life, Practical Wisdom to Strengthen Families for Life. To finally bring money truth to your life and into the lives of your entire family forever. An accomplished author and sought after speaker, Judy has penned several books serving as a wise thought leader and financial fiduciary, savvy about all family business and money matters. She is your guide now. And I've also found out she lives on a farm. We have a lot in common with food security, and she loves being there with her family and her chickens and her cats. Welcome, Judy.
Oh, hi, Alyson. It's so good to see you, and I'm so happy to be with you this morning.
And I'm so glad you're here. I know in reading your book and finding out more about you, I mean, money is just such a huge issue, and we have such emotions around it, especially as women, right? Should we make money? Should we not make money? Like, where did it start for you in your career that this became such a big thing to share?
Well, I started early. I've always been very entrepreneurial, and I grew up in a family that did that. Mom was a teacher, but we always had our own businesses, and my dad was really good at business. So I think early on, I kind of got the bug to be a better boss than an employee. I think I just kind of got that freedom that comes with that. And as a woman and raising kids, the flexibility is awesome. But I started as a teenager, actually worked and ran in a little insurance office where I went to high school out in the middle of Colorado. And this guy that owned it, it was just a one-man shop. He lived in another city, and every day he would of the week he would be in a different town. And on Fridays he would be in my town. And so for 2 hours I got to work with him, and he told me what to do. And then the next week I ran the whole office again. It was awesome. And I thought, I'm helping people. Back then we didn't have computers. Don't say when it was, a long time ago, early 80s, right? And it was paperwork, and it was working on those ledgers, and keeping track and serving people that came in this little office. And I got the bug. I thought I was destined for medical school and put myself through school to do all of that. Ended up in law school, and that's another story. But I really got the bug of helping people with money things. So when we got married in 1985, we came to California, and I immediately decided to go ahead and get my licenses because I loved what I was doing. And in those courses that you take to kind of expand your learning and become credentialed and licensed, I kept learning new ways that I could serve people. And it started with a desire to help um, pastors and ministers, people that work in charities and things like that. And in those classes, I learned that I could help them prepare for retirement using annuities and different vehicles in the financial world beyond insurances. And I thought, that's it. I was so angry with all the pastors that I met that served their community, and they served their congregants for 20, 30, 40 years, lived in the parsonage on the property, little church with parsonage. And then they ended up with nothing when a newer, younger pastor came in, and they had no planning, and the church no longer could take care of them. So that made me angry enough, justifiably angry, I think that's okay, to really want to go help them. So I started my business walking into colleges, walking into church campuses, walking into nonprofits and saying, hey, I can help you have something at the other end. And then over the rest of the 80s and into the 90s, I just kept adding degrees and credentials. I became a fiduciary and a CFP, and I got all the licenses for all the securities products and investments, and then attended law school with my husband. So I have a background in tax and then estate planning and law. And so I kind of kept adding tools and resources. Now I'm in the MBA program. I think, like you, we love this education, right? Just keep going. And so just adding tools and resources that could help me be a better servant, a better um, mentor, a better coach, a better resource person for my clients and for people that I come across in my speaking. And so that's kind of how it happened. It was never a big plan to end up with all the businesses that I run and have a farm and all that. I just kind of My husband and I have always just kind of followed every year, made goals for the next year, and followed this path that when you look back is perfectly designated. Like we couldn't have planned it, but it was perfect for us. And in between, we fit in the kids.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's kind of how it happened.
Well, and this past year has been so crazy for so many people. And
Yeah.
I know so many people probably would have reached out to you because we had money or you got a chunk of money. Like, yeah. Have you had a lot of people that just kind of blew up and said, hey, help me? I don't know what's going on?
Every day, every day. And it's everything from, um, my husband's in the hospital. They won't let me see him. He's got COVID. We don't know how it's going to go. To the young families that are trying to do their work at home and figure out this technology. The kids are in the next room at the kitchen table trying to do their Wi-Fi school and Zoom school. Helping people navigate. My career, it looks like it's financial and it's money and it's all that, but it's more than money. It's about people's lives working, women be having a successful business and not just getting the income, but now what do I do with it? And how do I maintain relationships and grow the right ones? And how do I say no to the things that shouldn't be on my calendar? So this year, there's been a lot of that. Anytime we have a year that has a lot of transition, and election years always have a lot of transition.
True.
Anytime we have some kind of a pandemic or just an epidemic or just a bad flu, right? Anytime if you remember ALAR and you remember the bird flu and the cow flu and the pig flu, we've had these things before to certain degrees. When you're in the middle of it, you always forget later how bad it seemed. And right now we're in the middle of several transitions. And anytime there's transition, relationships shift, your home life shifts, your finances shift. And the questions I get about finance are usually not just about the money. Obviously, you have a 401k roller, we can do that. You need to create a trust or update your trust or prepare for someone who may not make it, right, through the end of the year. So we do all of those things, legacy planning and insurance, all of that stuff. But really, it's about the whole person and strategies that help families for life and help women do what they need to do and help couples do what they need to do. I hope I answered your question, but the bottom line is yes, I have been getting those calls all the time. I've got a YouTube channel, so I get comments through there. Every Tuesday morning, I have a show and I address these things. And the comments, you can tell um, how relevant it is for people when the comments go up and there's all these conversations. And me too, me too. How do I do that at my house? I'm getting this advice from my banker or my real estate agent or my investment advisor or my wealth manager. I'm getting that advice, but it seems to conflict with all the other advice. What's the right thing for me to do? What's my strategy for me at my house that isn't going to cause more of a problem than a solution? So yes, I get those all the time. It varies. With all the pillars of finance, I've got backgrounds in all of them, and people know it. So I'm able to answer and couch all kinds of questions. And my role, self-ordained role, is just for everyone to do a little bit better, to be a little bit better, to have a life a little bit richer, having known me. Or if there's something I can do to touch their life that just helps them get on the path or course correct in a way that blesses them and their family, then I've done my job. That's my purpose.
Well, and sometimes it's just the little thing that will eventually snowball into something huge. And we
Yeah.
just don't see it because we're not used to looking for it.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it comes to money too, I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't, my husband doesn't know what I make, or we don't talk about money because we fight about money. Does
Yeah.
that come up at all?
Yes, 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 yes. And one of the biggest outcomes of my work is about family harmony, marital harmony. Because it doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world and you live in the biggest, tallest house on the biggest hill
Yeah.
and you drive the hottest, reddest, cutest car. None of that matters if the relationships are not intact and you're not rowing in the same direction. And it doesn't mean you have to share every account and check off on every expense your spouse makes. There needs to be communication about it. And some of the communication might be, you have yours over there, I have mine over here. Don't look at mine, I won't look at yours. But in the middle, we're meeting and we have joint goals. One of the things that we do with clients that hire us is we create a financial roadmap. And the first thing we do is look at values. and we align the values. And if it's a couple, both of them, we take all those values and we align those with the most important joint goals that they have, and then we can do the work. But if you don't have your values on there and you don't have your specific goals on there, you're both assuming things about the other that you really don't know. And that's where you get this expectations that are not met. And that's when you get conflict and disharmony and frustration. So you got to talk about it. You know, you mentioned a couple that might not talk about it because they only fight. There are simple things you can do to avoid that and make money one of the most comfortable conversations that you could have. And that's all in that. I have this Money, Truth, and Life book. It talks about that. It talks about the relationship and how to use tools and resources that are very simple, even if you don't have a background in economics or something. They're very simple to follow and simple to do at home, at your kitchen table, or on your couch, where everybody can be on the same page and take away that conflict that can come. You know, it's money. People fight about money and they fight about the other thing. Different show, right? It's those two things. Money is always number one or number two. And it doesn't have to be that way. When you get your money truths right, when you get the fundamentals, you know what to do, and you start to map out how you're going to get there together, the conflict just disappears.
Yeah, because I remember when I was married and he said, you know, the only thing we'll fight about is money. So I went, no, we're not. I'm going to make enough so we don't fight about it. Well, then that was another fight. So
Well, and then now we have a bunch. How are we going to allocate it? You're giving away too much. You're spending too much. You know, there's always, if there's room for conflict, and it'll be about, if it's not money, something else. You know, if you don't have that communication skill set, but why not have it be about money and prosper at the same time that you're working out the relationships? Why not?
it makes sense. Because I mean, we all have to have money. We all
Yeah.
need it as a resource. I mean, to buy foods, to buy seeds, to buy laundry, you know, everything.
Everything, every day. Yeah.
So, well, that is awesome. So, as a woman empowerer, when you're helping the woman to help the family, do you think mindset, intuition, does that play a part?
Oh, absolutely. Mindset's everything. And intuition is important, but if you don't naturally have an intuition or a propensity to understand money or like the numbers, you can always get a skill set or hire people that can do that for you. But it's got to be mindset. It's got to be, you know, you're right. I saw a quote that you put out the other day that is so real. You know, if you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you're right, because it's all right here. And it's so unfortunate how we as human beings, I think it's part of, you know, just how we are, we limit ourselves. And I don't know if it's from something that we learned, you know, in kindergarten or first grade, they said cows aren't purple, stop coloring it that way. You can't do that. Who do you think you are to be so great? Or do you think you're God's gift to the world? Well, I had this conversation a couple of years ago. I was with a very high level CEO group and we were having little chat, you know, at the coffee break, and somebody was kind of gossiping about somebody else, and I walked into the conversation and this man said, yeah, she thinks she's God's gift to the world. And I said, well, I hope you're talking about me, because I do. I am God's gift to the world. I am amazing. I've got skills, I've got talents, I've got resources, I've got background that nobody else on this planet has. And you're lucky to know me, but I'll tell you what, so do you, and so do you, and so do you, and so do you, and so do you. All of you are God's gift to the world. You're the only one. Isn't that awesome that we don't have to have two or three of us? It's so great. So it's true. It's so true. We all have all of this in us. It's just, how do we get it out? How do we not limit ourselves and get our brain out of the way? And that's mindset, which is so valuable about the work that you do, Alyson. You work with people's mindset and you bring in professionals that help people say, I know I want to get there, but where's the bridge? Where's the ladder? How do I find that? And it's usually something that you can do without having to go outside, right?
It's true, because a lot of them, so I don't know how I got here. Well,
Yeah.
you do. Let's just sit down and look at it with the negatives and the positives, bring the positives forward and change some of the negatives and leave what isn't serving you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. You're so good at that. It's awesome.
Well, and I love that because, you know, we all have that, right? We all have that conditioning, like you said,
Yeah.
from when we were little kids or even as adults. And people say, well, you know, they don't have that much influence. We do, because if you wake up one morning and you just don't wake up and say, hey, you know, people don't like me today. There is something that you've carried with you that has stopped you from doing something.
Right. Right. And some people have, it might be deep work, trauma, or maybe growing up hearing you can't do that, you're not good enough. So sometimes there's work to do to get past that. Other people have just never had anyone tell them they're amazing, they're great, they're beautiful, they're smart, they're brilliant. They've never had someone believe in them and see them the way God sees them without the filters. And that's a gift we all can give to people every day. I talked about wanting to leave every relationship, whether it's a 20, 30, 40-year relationship, or it's just a clerk at a store somewhere that I just saw for a few seconds. I want to leave them better as a person than before we had that interaction. And if we all did that, and just a little, might be like, your hair looks nice today, or thanks for serving me with a smile. When I go in the restrooms at the hotels or the airports or whatever, and there's people in there, especially now they're cleaning everything, every 5 minutes,
All the time.
just look them in the face, even if you don't think they're going to understand your language, and say, thank you so much. It's beautiful in here and so clean, and I appreciate what you're doing. That probably doesn't happen very often. And isn't that a shame?
It's true. Well, one
We
of the
all
things
can do
I
that.
did with a group of women, I said, I want you to go out over the next week and I want you to compliment 3 people a day.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
thought that was so hard. But by day 3, they were complimenting 5, 6, 7 people a day because they got that great reaction and it made them feel good.
Of course, it's a habit, it's a mindset, and it's not about affirming the other person. I mean, they're going to get their goodie, like, oh, yeah, you noticed me. I'm not invisible.
Yeah.
It really is a gift to ourselves when we do that, when we live in gratitude, when we live in something that's bigger than ourselves, helping other people, loving on other people that way. It's really a gift for us. So we can be a little selfish that way and compliment people all day long.
Well, that's true. And, I do smile. And one of my things is to get people just to smile. Like before you even get on a Zoom or on a phone call or anything, smile because it changes your physiology. It changes your outlook and your attitude. And people come back going, wow, I just tried to smile all day today. It felt different.
I'm a
So
little sore. Yeah, you're so good at that. You're so good at that, Alyson. It's awesome. Awesome to be with you today.
thank you. Thank you, Judy. If there's anything else you want to leave them with that is kind of something you want them to think about, what would it be?
Well, I think in times like this, not knowing where to go or what to think or what it might look like in a month or two or a year or two, there's all this unknown and transition. I think if I could just give everyone, wave my magic magic wand and give everyone something, it would just be a little bit of peace,
Mm.
a little bit of peace to just know that this too shall pass, that it's a season and there's always a silver lining out there. It might be a day or two, a week or two, a month or two, we don't know. And that's for any kind of tough transition. And then besides peace, I'd like to offer freedom. There is a way to get free. If it's a relationship issue, if it's some kind of a substance addiction, gambling addiction, any kind of a behavior, there's a way to get out of it. You can climb out of it. If it's financial, you just need a few tools. So any area of life, if you need to organize your house, there's people that can help with that. But whatever it is that's holding you back, I like to talk about a wheel, like a bicycle wheel. It has all these spokes. It's actually in the book and on the course.
Right.
But and every area of spoke is represented by an area of life: your home life, your business life, your relationships, your health and wellness, um, finances, all the areas in your life. If one of those spokes begins to bend or is compromised, it breaks, it's going to impact all the other spokes of life. But the inverse is also true. If you put integrity back into a broken spoke, maybe you do something, you get back in shape. You get a bad note from your doctor, and he says you better start looking after yourself, and you do. The relationships get better. Your home gets better. Your work gets better. You get these divine downloads and great ideas for business, and you start innovating in a new way. If you clean up your house, if you're people that like to collect clutter, or you're collectors, you know what that is. There's TV shows about stuff like that. If you have that, ultimately it's going to impact your relationships and your finances and everything else in life. But if you put integrity, maybe just have someone help you get rid of the clutter and off sell some of those collections that you have, all of a sudden you're healthier, you're breathing better, you're able to make your way out and make more money, maybe, or all these things show up. So I think the point to that is that you just have the ability to improve in one area of life, something, Just do something. The other areas of your life will naturally, they have to also improve. And I've got story after story from my life and from other people's life. It's amazing. Just find one area where you could, my spoke, it's like a 2. I'd like it to be a 10 in integrity, or my spoke is a 5. I'd like it to be a 10. Well, what one little thing today or 2 little things today could I do to bring integrity back to that area of life, and do it, and just wait, maybe keep a journal, but just wait for how the other areas of life show up. And all that integrity is restored, and your life just gets better and better in every way. That's what I'd like to leave. I didn't mean to tell the whole story, but it's so valuable and so true. And just do one little thing. Maybe it's complimenting somebody. Maybe it's organizing your kitchen drawers. Maybe it's cleaning out the trunk of your car. Really, would people hire you if they looked in your closet or the trunk of your car, where they go, oh, you know? So what can you do to restore integrity? Maybe pick up the phone, or if you're an emailer, and reach out to that friend you haven't really talked to in 10, 15, 20 years because you had a misunderstanding, and you should, but you just haven't. Maybe it's a relative and you need to fix it. What if you put integrity back into that relationship just by saying, hey, it's Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you. I should have called you 10 years ago. What if you fixed that? How much space would you have to restore integrity in other areas of life? It's all those little things that we can do. And that's what I'd like to leave people with: inspiration and encouragement to do something to straighten a spoke and improve their lives.
Well, that is the perfect ending. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us at the Women's Empowerment Summit 2020. And we'll give you all the links to Judy's information in the email below. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
You too. Thanks, honey.